Lucy Charles-Barclay is one of the most talented athletes in the world of triathlon. In 2019, at the age of 25, she has multiple Ironman wins, numerous swim course records, and a second at Kona twice in consecutive years. And she's achieved all of this in just 4 years. So I wanted to catch up with her to hear her story and how she's done all of this. Okay, Lucy, so we know loads about you as a triathlete and all your triathlon accolades, but I'm really keen now today to hear about, well, the making of Lucy the triathlete. So where it all started, and from what I know, you started out in swimming. When did you get into swimming? At what age were you getting in the water? Was it before you could walk?
Yes, I mean, as a child, my mum and dad said I was quite water obsessed. So we'd go on holiday, I think I probably wasn't even one, but I was like one of those young toddlers just sort of running around out of control. And I had armbands on, and we was on the beach on holiday, and my mum and dad said they literally like turned their head for 1 second and I was like running at the sea, trying to get in there. I think there was always sort of a love of water as a child, but it wasn't until I was about 8 years old that I actually got into a swimming club and started swimming properly.
At what point then in this, the swimming career that you started out in, did you then start thinking, right, I actually kind of want to do this quite seriously and started upping the game a bit with it?
Yeah, I mean, if I started when I was about 8 and then when I was 9 I won the county championship, so that was kind of what sparked, I think, that actually I'd quite like to do this. And I'd watched like previous Olympic Games and knew what the Olympics was, so I was always sort of thinking, even at 9 years old, the Olympics is what I want to do. It's the pinnacle in the sport, and can I get there? So even at 9 years old, I was probably like super dedicated to training and probably a bit obsessed with it.
What were your kind of biggest results then and performances in swimming?
So I had several national titles from, I think my first one was when I was 16. I got the open water national title and the 1500 and maybe even the 800. We were part of a great swimming club, so we were at Hatfield Swimming Club, and one year we won the relay and several national titles. So it helped that we were part of sort of a massive club where people were going and winning these national medals. So yeah, I think some of my highlights were probably winning those national medals, and then getting selected for the GB team. So I raced in Canada, and then when I did open water I was racing in Brazil and Argentina. So it was a lot of travelling and quite a lot of elite level racing.
Can you impress us all now? Just give us a few of your swim times and PBs from over the years, like 400, 1500, full time. Yeah,
I think my most impressive time is probably my 1500, which short course was a 16:15. So I think that's still like the 5th fastest ever in the UK. So that was a pretty good swim.
Do you think you'd still be close to that now?
I think I wouldn't probably have to swim the volume I used to then to do that kind of swim, but I would have to swim more than I'm swimming now.
Yeah.
But I think actually the cross training with the bike and run would maybe allow me to be just as good on less swim volume. So we'll have to see. Maybe I'll give it a go.
Oh, that's really interesting. Now, so at what point did you then decide, actually, this isn't for me anymore, and start maybe drifting away from swimming?
So I think I was about 19, and I just missed out on the London Olympics for the open water, where Great Britain only took 1 athlete. So I was quite disheartened by that. It was like, can I do another 4 years trying to make an Olympic team, or do I just not think I could do it? And I basically gave it a shot for 2013, and I really went for it. Like, I joined a new club and committed more training than I'd ever done, more strength training than I'd ever done. And I had one of my best ever swims at British Championships, and I should have been over the moon with it, but I kind of was a bit flat after the race, I guess. And that was when I knew, you know what, I don't think I can do 4 more years of this, because I'm not getting that same buzz that I used to get. And basically I think it was May of that year, I just decided I couldn't do it anymore and pretty much went straight into work. I worked at a zoo, which is quite random, but it was the local zoo, and I actually worked there doing marketing, so I did all their
so you weren't looking
socials
after
and
the animals.
stuff. So no, I got to see all the animals, but unfortunately, I wasn't qualified enough to actually work with the animals or anything like that. But I did get to shadow the keepers and find out a lot more, actually, and I am a real animal lover, so.
I was just picturing you mucking out the rhinos and stuff there. Now, let's talk a little bit more about that Olympics selection, because how does that make you feel then when they didn't select you, and that idea of sort of just letting swimming go?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty scary thing for any athlete when all you've ever known is the sport that you're in. So you're very much in that bubble, and the outside world is kind of quite scary, because it's like, yeah, you've got to get a real job if you're not going to work in this environment of swimming anymore, where I wasn't earning really any money at all, actually, because the funding was so little. And we weren't allowed to get a job whilst we were swimming, because basically you had to be fully committed to your swim programme, which those hours didn't really allow you to get a job. So you had no real work experience. You'd only sort of been studying and swimming. So yeah, it was quite scary, which I think is why I gave it a little bit more time before I decided, actually, I know I can't do this. But I guess from being a 9-year-old pursuing that goal of being an Olympic swimmer, and then 10 years later deciding, actually, no, I'm not going to do it. You kind of feel, one, I felt I'd let my parents down because they'd dedicated so much time taking me training that I felt guilty for them, and then I felt guilty for my 9-year-old self that had been like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to put everything into it. So yeah, it's a scary time, I think, for any athlete to kind of make that decision.
Yeah, I mean, it's your life, it's your identity, isn't it? So yeah, that's really hard. So how did you find the day-to-day work, the 9-to-5 grind?
I quickly found out that I definitely didn't want to work for someone else. So having kind of, I guess I was told what to do as a swimmer, but you're in control of what you're doing to some extent. Actually being in a job where you have to arrive at 9 o'clock, and I think sometimes we had to work till 6 or later, depending on the summer hours. So I kind of quickly realised I definitely don't want to work for someone else. And then I hadn't been working there that long, and Reese and I decided to set up a personal training business. So basically, whilst I was working at the zoo, I was training to be a personal trainer. Reese was obviously studying sports science, so as part of that, he would get his personal trainer qualification. So we then decided to start up our own business, so we didn't have to work for anyone else.
And out of interest, did you keep swimming going in the background? I'm guessing not to the same level and like as much training, but were you still doing a little bit?
I had no real desire at all to swim. I was like completely done with the sport altogether. So the thought of getting back in a pool and having to swim just didn't appeal to me. So yeah, I definitely didn't do much swimming after that.
When did triathlon come along? What was your first sort of encounter with the sport?
So I think it must have been the back end of 2013. So I basically stopped swimming in May 2013, and then I think it was around June time, or maybe even later, it might have been August actually, we decided to still enter this open water swim, which was the Great Scottish Swim. So I'd done a lot of the Great Swim series before, so I decided I'll still do that, let's see where I'm at. It was kind of just to keep me training, I guess, and keep me a bit fit, to have a bit of a goal. But Reese and I both went and did that swim and swam absolutely abysmal. It was like so embarrassing. I was like, oh, we shouldn't have done this. And basically went back to the hotel after, and I think it was Reese's idea actually. We just pulled up Ironman UK's website and just both signed up there and then, basically. Like, because we knew we needed something to train for, otherwise we wasn't even going to keep fit. We was just going to, I think if you haven't got something to work towards, then...
Straight in on the hardest distance, no messing about.
Yeah, and then it was kind of, we went down to the post sort of athlete awards evening and basically said, oh, well, we're doing Ironman now, like we've signed up. So it was like, yeah, that's what we're doing now, we're not swimming anymore, we're doing this. So I guess it was a bit of a spur of the moment thing, and quickly learned, actually, this is going to be pretty difficult. I mean, originally we said we could probably do it on a mountain bike, and we were like, oh, we have a mountain bike, so we can do it on that. And it was like, you soon learnt there's no way we're going to even finish if we do it on a mountain bike. So it was a steep learning curve in that sense. Then when we finally got road bikes, that was a whole different experience, and I remember just falling off every minute and getting laughed at. And I think the thing was, I was only ever going to do one and tick the box, say, yeah, I've done it, and then I was hooked after that.
Were there any big hiccups or things that you look at now from that race, you're like, oh God, why did I do that?
I mean, I did something I would never recommend to like any of the athletes I work with now, but I basically got a TT bike 1 month before the race and used that, and like having obviously
gone from a mountain bike to a TT bike within a matter of months.
So yeah, I mean, obviously I'm nowhere near like in the aero position I am now, so it probably still basically looked like a road bike position on a TT bike, but the biggest thing was I was too scared to change from the big ring to the little ring on climb. So I thought I was going to drop my chain, and even then I didn't know how to put a chain back on. So it would be like the end of my race if a chain dropped. So I find it so funny now how I kind of feel so comfortable around basic bike mechanics, but back then a small thing like that I just would have no clue what to do. So, but I mean, aside from that, actually there wasn't really any major hiccups. I think the hardest part was coming in being a strong swimmer. I came out the swim very near the front, and then the whole day on the bike was just constantly being overtaken, which is quite hard sort of to handle, I guess.
What made you kind of pursue going for it really, and like a pro lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, initially it literally was just for fun, something completely different. I almost hoped that I would just be rubbish at it in a way, because I'd had that top end elite career in swimming. I just wanted to do something for fun that maybe I could just be an average person at and just enjoy it. And then instantly my competitive edge came in, and I wanted to win races. And I think as I started to get more comfortable on the bike and my run developed, I was like, oh, I could maybe be quite good at this. And then after that first Ironman, I learned about what Kona was and wanted to pursue that. So I signed up for Ironman UK again the next year. And I kind of dedicated a lot more time to training actually. So I quit the job at the zoo and then was a personal trainer full time, so I could train around that and have more of that pro lifestyle. But obviously I had to fund it some way, so we had to personal train a hell of a lot. But it gave me that bit more time to train. So I think I went from doing 12 hours, 16 minutes in that first Ironman, and then a year later went just under 11 hours. So
and you won your age group, right?
Yes, yeah. So that's how I qualified for Kona. And from getting that big jump of taking an hour off, I kind of knew actually, yeah, maybe I could be quite good at this. And once I won my age group in Kona that year, I kind of thought, well, what's next? There's not really a bigger step than that in long distance. So that was when I decided to try and get my pro licence, which I don't know if many people know, but I actually got it rejected from British Triathlon the first time. So I had to appeal it, and then I kind of got it on a trial basis, which meant kind of the year 2016, I was trying to prove a point that I deserved to have the licence.
Do you feel that this kind of need to go to Kona, win Kona, and be this, fantastic pro triathlete is maybe a little bit of a hangover from the swimming and not being selected for the Olympics?
Yeah, definitely. I think, obviously, as I said, like as a 9-year-old, when you have that goal of making the Olympics, and then when you come so close to not get it at the end, like the Olympics was always like the big goal. So even when I came into triathlon, I kind of still had a think about the Olympics and could I do that, which I was kind of almost shot down again by the governing body of triathlon, and it felt similar to in swimming. So I guess I really did have that fire to be like, right, well, okay, I'm kind of doing long distance. Let's see if I can get to the top in that and prove everyone wrong. So I guess, yeah, I'm able now to compete at the top level in long distance at the pinnacle of our sport. So for me, that's kind of, yeah, it means I can be satisfied now because, yeah, I think if I hadn't have done that, I always would have thought, well, what if? Could I have been at the top level in whatever sport I was doing? And
would you even go back to considering triathlon Olympics and ITU racing in any way?
I feel less likely to do that now. I think this is going so well. I've sort of said before, maybe to a few people, that if I'd won Kona twice now, then maybe I would, because I'd be like, actually, I've kind of done that. Maybe now let's have a new challenge and do this. But the fact that I've come second twice, I'm so hungry to get that top spot in Kona that I'm not willing to change my plan yet until I've done that.
Let's think back to you in that marketing job at the zoo. How old were you then?
So I think I was about 20 when I was working there.
Okay, so 20. If you were like to think back to yourself there and you were to say, oh, I'm going to be a pro triathlete in 3 years' time or so, and I'm going to be one of the best, rocking up at Kona and duking out with Danny on a reef. I mean, what would you think?
Yeah, it wouldn't have even crossed my mind. I think sitting at that desk, so initially obviously I had signed up for the first ever Ironman, and I told the people working there I was going to do this crazy triathlon, and they kind of knew what it was. And my kind of biggest goal was just to maybe get first out the swim, because I used to be a swimmer, but there was never any thought of, I didn't even really know you could be a pro triathlete in Ironman. I didn't know it was a thing. So yeah, I wouldn't have even dreamt about it. Yeah, it wouldn't have crossed my mind.
Well, thanks ever so much for joining us today. It's been absolutely fascinating. I hope you guys enjoyed that as well. If you did, then please do hit the thumbs up button. And if you'd like to see more from GTN, just click on the globe and subscribe.
Yeah, and if you'd like to hear my swim tips video, then just click here.